this month's webinar, which poses the question, if 90% of communications is non-verbal, how can speech analytics help us? First of all, I'd like to start by debunking that myth that 90% of communication is non-verbal, as if it wasn't already completely obvious. If you're unable to convince someone of something by using words, no matter how much you jump up and down, match their body language, or wave your arms about, you're still not going to be able to convince them. The quote itself actually comes from a book called Silent Messages by Albert Mehrabian. And he wrote it in 1971 and has been largely disclaiming what other people have been saying his work means on his website since the 70s. He was talking about face-to-face communication and body language and all sorts of things like that, which simply aren't relevant to phone conversations. However, it is true to say that within the first 10 seconds of meeting someone or speaking to someone on the phone, we've made a huge amount of deductions about them. And it's not purely based on the words that they've spoken. There is, in fact, a huge amount that can be determined from the types of words and phrases that are used by a caller. From how they're feeling emotionally to where they're from and even how old they are. And speech analytics is an incredibly useful tool that is only now beginning to realize its full potential. So this is because of huge advances in technology. So the cloud obviously has affected everything. So cheap processing and storage of the recordings themselves has made this possible. Another thing is NLP, the natural language processing, which has made the process of turning speech into text much better at understanding what people are saying, even if they're using colloquial language. And then there's the data mining science, the audio mining part of it. The tools that are available to us now are just simply much better. And a lot of semantic analysis has improved because of analysis of social media feeds and text-based things done by Facebook and lots of other people that have meant that we're understanding intention behind text a lot better. So audio mining has come along in huge leaps and bounds as well. So let's move on to what we've got here. So all the suppliers of call mining and or audio mining, depending on what you want to call it, use a very similar approach. And we've got a few of those the examples on the left-hand side. We've got CallMiner, which is what IPscape is going to integrate with. We've got other suppliers like NICE or Nexidia, Verint, and Nuance, are all examples, and they all work in a very similar way. Essentially, they've got these 3 steps. They analyze the data, they then index it, and then store it in a database. So these are the core things. So in analyzing the data, they can take one of 2 main approaches. There's the phonetic approach, which breaks the words down into sounds and then puts them into a lattice. And then we've got the text-to-speech, which turns it into like a transcription of the conversations. And then you've got people that use a hybrid of both of those things. So depending on your supplier, it will depend on which one they're using to which one they say is the best way of doing it. Anyway, any which way it happens, they basically take those recordings and analyze them. They then put them in the database and they index them, which makes them searchable, and then they are auto-categorized. So all of the suppliers come with a similar kind of functionality to categorize the calls into certain standard categories. At this point, they may be offering sentiment analysis, and they can add tags to the phone calls as well. It's important that the agent and the caller parts of the system are split, so that there's a clear way of doing that. And in IPscape, what we've done with that is we have used stereo recording, and we split it into channels. So the agent gets one channel, and the caller gets another one. So they all work in a very similar way, as I say. So once you've indexed those, you can then take them and store them in a database, and that's ready for you to start your customization, the kind of searching that you actually want to do. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. You can do the keyword searching. You can look for phrases and different things and block them up into semantic blocks that you'll be able to search on. So that's, broadly speaking, we're going to have a look at the different types of searching you can do in a moment, but broadly speaking, that's what all of the suppliers do. So they take the data, analyze it, and index it and put it into a database. Once it's in that format, you can then, either you can do the keyword searching, or you can pass it to an AI, an artificial intelligence, where you can perform predictive analysis on it, on the data, now that it's in a machine-readable format. So there's a lot happening in that space. I'm not really going to dwell too much on the predictive analysis. It's more difficult to understand, and really the sky's the limit, and it's really as much money as you want to spend on doing it. What I want to have a look at is more the keyword and phrase searching side of stuff, which you can still gain a huge amount of insights from. So let's move on. So searching the data. Once we've done all this work on the database, what we need to do is get some information out of it. So let's take a look. All of the main players, again, have a standard set of queries that will allow you to identify common calls, common call language. So transfers, complaints, where people are over talking in the call, hold periods, dissatisfaction, empathy, repeat contact language, lots of different types. And I'm going to use CallMiner as an example of how you can use those categories as building blocks for your queries. So what I've been reading about is that generally speaking, out of the box, you're not going to get a very high accuracy rate on identifying things like positive sentiment and that sort of thing. You're going to get something like 60%. So they have done, the suppliers of the call mining software have done a reasonable job. They've got 60%, but really after that, you need to do more customization for your business. So you really want to be getting that accuracy up to 90% before this is actually really usable. So you need to do quite a lot of work on the work to customize it to your business. So let's have a look at the kind of things you can do there. So what the idea is that you build up these building blocks. So positive sentiments you can put into one block, and you can put that and do Google style searches where you've got these Boolean search operators where you can put that near something else. So at its simplest level, we can just combine a single word and single phrases with a single product. But where the real power is by blocking these up into what CallMiner calls semantic blocks, and then combine them up and then put them together with a timeline, and you can really gain some insights. So what we're doing here is taking that information and looking for these terms, these basically just libraries of different keywords and phrases that we've put into blocks. So that's the sort of idea behind the searching. I've got a couple of other things here, so some more in-depth searching. So what we have here are things like we've got a dissatisfaction block and we've got a positive sentiment block. So a use for this is you can do a search in this way, as you can see here. We've got find dissatisfaction in the first half of the call with positive sentiment in the last half of the call, which will allow you to reward agents with strong ownership and talk down skills. And obviously you can use that information to train other people, and there are lots of other uses for that. But the idea I want to get across is the idea of blocking together different categories that you can put onto your calls. So that's essentially that. So the next thing I'm going to do is have a look at how you can build some of these blocks and some of the categories you might want to put together. So if we have a look here, I've got customizing your search block. So there's a few here, and they're in no particular order. I just put in a few here. So one block could be opinion statements. So these are things like I want, I need, I hate, I wish, that sort of thing. And this needs to be on the customer side, on the customer part, and it's important that you split those two channels out. But that should be done by your provider of call mining software. But yeah, so these you want to block together, and once you understand these, you can understand what they call the voice of the customer, and you can prioritize your efforts to maximize their satisfaction. Another one, competitor names is a good thing to put into the search. And remember, you can block these up and put them together. So make sure you include the specific product names and the competitors, and if they've been spoken by your customer or indeed by your agent, that could be an interesting thing in itself. By learning what your customers think about your competitors and how they compare your brand, you can gain important insights into it. So that's another one. So other things I'm jumping about here, we've got product feature terms. So this is about your product. So if you have that next door to your competitor names, you can monitor your product and spot trends and learn what features about your customer, about your product or service or whatever it is, what customers like and what they dislike, which is obviously a useful thing. The next thing I've got here is profanity. So profanity obviously is an obvious one. It should be spotted for both customer and agent. Businesses need to react quickly to profanity, obviously, and that could be as a thing to improve customer retention, or also to red flag any of those agents that are using it. Hopefully that's not the case, but you can see profanity near your product features, or et cetera, et cetera. You can derive some quite interesting things in a sort of draggy droppy kind of way by taking a block and seeing how it compares with another one. So the next one is exciting language that I have down here. So I've got that one down here. So exciting language, it's a much broader category, but you can say interested in, purchase, and all of these things spoken by the customer. It can be a useful way of detecting when a customer is very interested in your product against kind of interested. So that's useful for finding selling opportunities and potentially upsell kind of things. So that's exciting languages. Other more mundane uses for it are the required and authorized section. So you could spot mandatory terms. So you can load your agent script into it and make sure that what percentage of your calls are including the important parts of your agent script. What agents aren't doing it? When in the call are they doing it? Are they being successful using that script when they do it in certain orders? So lots of interesting insights you can gain from that. So spotting your mandatory phrases, so I've written down stuff like the money back guarantee or the 2-year commitment or the free trial. What you can also find out is things that you don't want your clients your agents to be putting into their calls. So percentage discounts or and no contract needed, I've written down here. But language that you don't, not just profanities, but actually business language that you don't want them to be using and they shouldn't be offering as part of their sales pitch. So the other thing you can, so that's the unauthorized bit, unauthorized language and the language of the scripting. You can also do it for legal requirements. If there's a legal requirement that you need to do terms and conditions, you can check that that's been covered, and that's all done for you on 100% of your calls. So another thing, so I'm just running through these different blocks. They're in different order on the screen than I have on my notes, which is a bit of a shame, but hopefully you're getting the idea here. We've got customer dissatisfaction. So that is another one that is very important. And the kind of language you're looking for here is things like I'm switching to, I'm not happy with, cancel the account, close the account, cancel service, and this is all very, very specific to your business and your service. And this is why the percentage rates of accuracy of these searches depends very much on how you customize it, because it's all about what your product is and what people are saying about it. The standard bits are sort of the timing lines and the common call language, which is all there for you. So customer dissatisfaction, a good one to look out for. And then you can find out things like the call drivers. So this is your reasons for the call. So obviously you can cross-reference that with your information that's been put into your call system. So in IPscape we have outcome codes. So you can see categorized by those and then cross-reference with the reasons that are actually driving those calls. So that is the different ways you can customize your search blocks. So that I hope is useful to you. I'm going to move on now from there and move into the uses. So there are a lot of uses. I've just grabbed a few here. I think it's important to realize that at the moment you're probably only analyzing 5% of your calls, and that's a manual process with agents involved, time sort of the time that's taken to listen to the call they have to spend, so that's agent hours. So it's, you're not analyzing 100% of your calls is what I'm trying to get at. So basically with this you can set it up to listen to 100% of your calls and check it for compliance. So this is checking your mandatory compliance. So agent scripting, that I mentioned that already. So looking for compliance with various standards that you can set. So the other thing you can do is then reverse engineer the good calls with the good outcomes, so that you can feed them back into your script and so on. So it's just a virtuous circle of goodness. So compliance is a major use for this, and obviously as part of this you can find hidden insights as well, and it's very useful for training. So let's take a look at that. So these are some of the uses. I think that you will have many more ideas on how you can use this from me. I hope I can tell you how we're implementing it, and show you some of the uses, but really it's your imagination that limits what this can be used for once you've blocked everything up into keywords and all of the rest of it. So there's a lot you can do with this, and I'm going to move on now to what speech analytics can do. So speech analytics helps us answer these three questions, basically. Do you know why your customers are calling, the caller intent? What are your service reps and customers doing, the key behaviors? And what most impacts your relationship with your customers, the customer sentiment? And this can all be tracked and answered through call analytics. So in answer to the question, what can call analytics do for us? If 90% of communication is nonverbal, basically all of the above. And I hope that has been useful to you. And that is the end of my presentation today. So thank you very much. I'm from IPscape, and we do a cloud contact center solution, and we hope to be implementing speech analytics at some point this year. If you are interested in that, please let us know. You can either put an interest in the comments or questions section here, or you can contact us or contact me at perrin.shanks@ipscape.com.au. Thanks very much for joining us, and I hope to see you at the next webinar. Thank you.